Hello everyone, welcome to part 3 of this series. In this video, we will be discussing Levites' concubine and my final thoughts. The next story I'm going to share with you is Levites' concubine story. Now, this woman does not have a name in this story, but she's referred to as Levites' concubine, which is also another way of saying like a wife. I would say after reading what we read, this is probably the saddest story because in this story, the concubine does not live because the abuse was so great that happened to her. But something really great happened on behalf of her because of the abuse that happened to her. Justice was served after what happened to her, and God really had vengeance on the people that did that to her. Judges 19, it says, "So it came to pass in those days when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levi staying in the remote mountains of Ephraim. He took for himself a concubine from Bethlehem in Judea. But his concubine played the harlot against him, and went away from him to her father's house at Bethlehem in Judah, and was there for 4 whole months. Then her husband arose and went after her to speak kindly to her and bring her back, having his servant and a couple of donkeys with him. So she brought him into her father's house, and when the father of the young woman saw him, he was glad to meet him. Now his father-in-law, the young woman's father, detained him, and he stayed with him 3 days. So they ate and drank and lodged there." So his father-in-law kept on telling him, to keep staying, and he's trying to keep him for more and more days. Eventually, the Levite departs. The Levite is traveling with his concubine and his servant. They are in this open square in the city, hoping someone will take them in, and they come across this old man who is also from the same city as the Levite man, and he offers them a place to stay. This is where the Levite's concubine story really begins. It says in verse 22, "As they were enjoying themselves, suddenly certain men of the city, perverted men, surrounded the house and beat on the door. They spoke to the master of the house, the old man, saying, 'Bring out the man who came to your house, that we may know him carnally.'" So these men are wanting to sleep with the Levite man, and they're telling the old man to give them the Levite man. And it says, "But the master of the house, went out to them and said to them, 'No, my brethren, I beg you, do not act so wickedly. Seeing this man has come into my house, do not commit this outrage. Look, here is my virgin daughter and the man's concubine. Let me bring them out now, humble them, and do with them as you please. But to this man, do no such a vile thing.'" In verse 25, "But the men would not heed him. So the man took his concubine and brought her out to them, and they knew her and abused her all night until morning. And when the day began to break, they let her go." So we learn that these men are begging for the Levite man to come out so that they can sleep with him. And the man of the house is telling him, "No, I will give you my daughter. She's a virgin. You can do with her as you please. This is wrong. I'll give you the man's concubine, but don't take advantage of this Levite man." It says that the people do not listen, and so the man of the house eventually just gives to the men who won't stop begging Levite's concubine. And it says, "And they knew her and abused her all night until morning." So they took advantage of her. They abused her all night until morning, until the day began to break, and then they let her go. It says in verse 26, "Then the woman came as the day was dawning and fell down at the door of the man's house where her master was till it was light. So we see she's alive and that she falls at the door where her master, which is the Levite, he's sleeping. So in verse 27, when her master rose in the morning and opened the doors of the house and went out to go his way, there was his concubine fallen at the door of the house with her hands on the threshold. And he said to her, "Get up and let us be going." But there was no answer. So the man lifted her onto the donkey, and the man got up and went to his place. And when he entered his house, he took a knife, laid hold of his concubine, and divided her into 12 pieces, limb by limb, and set her throughout all the territory of Israel. And so it was that all who saw it, no such deed has been done or seen from the day the children of Israel came up from the land of Egypt until this day, consider it, confer, and speak up. So we learn that the Levite man, he opens a door, he sees that his concubine is not responding, she's dead, and he decides to cut up her body into 12 pieces, sent her throughout the territory of Israel. So he wanted to make a statement. He wanted to show people what had happened to her. Verse 3, it says, "Then the children of Israel said, 'Tell us, how did this wicked deed happen?'" So they're asking the Levite, "What happened to your concubine?" Verse 4, so the Levite, the husband of the woman who was murdered, answered and said, "My concubine and I went into Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin, to spend the night. And the men of Gibeah rose against me and surrounded the house at night because of me. They intended to kill me, but instead they ravished my concubine so that she died. So I took hold of my concubine, cut her into pieces, and set her throughout all the territory of the inheritance of Israel, because they committed lewdness and outrage in Israel. Look, all of you are children of Israel. Give your advice and counsel here and now." So the Levite man is telling them what happened to his concubine. He's asking the Israelites what he should do. So all the people arose as one man, saying, "None of us will go into his tent, nor will any turn back to his house. And now this is the thing which we will do to Gibeah. We will go up against it by lot. We will take 10 men out of every 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, 100 out of every 1,000, and 1,000 out of every 10,000, to make provisions for the people, that when they come to Gibeah in Benjamin, they may repay all the vileness that they have done in Israel." So all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, unified together as one man. So we see that the children of Israel are now going against the Benjamites. The children of Israel are now in a battle against the Benjamites because of what had happened to the Levite's concubine. Then the children of Israel went up and wept before the Lord until evening, and asked the counsel of the Lord, saying, "Shall I draw near the battle against the children of my brother Benjamin?" And the Lord said, "Go up against him." So we see that God is encouraging them to go into battle against the men that did this to Levite's concubine. We see that the Israelites continue in battle, and they are taking out the Benjamites. They are killing every one of them that they encounter. And they win. In this story, it is, I would say, the saddest story of all of them that we read, but we see that even though Levite's concubine, his wife, died, Levi took action because what happened was wrong, and Israel went into battle on behalf of Levite's concubine against the men who took advantage of his concubine and killed his concubine. And Israel won the battle with God. God encouraged them to go into battle with the Benjamites. And because of what they had done, the Benjamites were then killed. And they were then cut off from the tribe of Israel, which I believe that was vengeance. That was justice for Levite's concubine. So those are all the stories of sexual abuse in the Bible. We read in Deuteronomy about the law regarding sexual abuse, and the consequences that were to happen depending on who you were. And we read about Dinah, we read about Tamar, and we read about Levites' concubine. Let me know what you thought about the stories. If there was a story that really stuck with you or something that stood out to you in Tamar's stories or Dinah's story or Levites' concubine. And that is it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.